I discovered a trick to reduce the amount of resources required to make a map art, down from 16k to 4 stacks per item. This trick called color suppression also lets you do 2D staircasing and shade pixels south of the void. By standing 126 blocks away from the map, you can keep the edge of the update circle just out of range of blocks previously placed. It is however not that simple. The edge of the update circle is checkered. This is a result of the map being split into two types of pixels, dominant and recessive, where dominant render further away. We can utilize this behavior in a two-step process, by placing blocks on recessive pixels first, and render that, followed by placing dominant pixels and update those 126 blocks away. We can avoid updating recessive pixels. For a repeatable pattern, we can update the following recessive pixels whilst we are suppressing the previous ones, allowing us to do this process over the entire map, saving on materials. Map artists who's wanted to make map arts with more detail has for years made staircase map arts to unlock triple the amount of shades. With color suppression you can however do it flat and retain the same amount of detail. If we go back to the previous example, we can shade the pixels with filler blocks either on the same level or one block above the south block. This way we don't have to elevate the blocks like you do in staircasing. Instead we shade half of the blocks in the first step, followed by suppressing the other half in the second step. There are two predominant methods to use when building a suppressed map art. The first method is called the checker method, with the main advantage being that it requires a low quantity of resources. A big challenge when doing this method by hand is however your inventory management. You can fit a majority of the map resources within your inventory, but you might have to organize it with bundles and shulker boxes in the process of building. And the storage required to store all of the resources is 5 double chests. The building process consists of you making a layer, visiting the marked out locations with your map in hand, break the layer of blocks, and then moving the schematic down 2 times. A 2B2T map artist called Heckler has automated a process for this method. With a minimum of 2 bots, he can make a shaded map art in less than 2 hours. And he has made some amazing art with it. The second method is called the 2-layer method. The premise of it is that you build the entire schematic in one go. This does however require the same amount of resources as a staircase map art, but an advantage is that it is 2D. The idea is that you separate the two types of pixels. You build the dominant pixels on the bottom layer, followed by the recessive pixels on the top layer. Once you've built the content of the schematic, you can render it, break 2 rows, suppress, and repeat. A map artist called Crubleighs has in addition automated this process. You can get a generated schematic for either of these methods through the map artist Evmodder's website called PNG to NBT with marked out locations of where to stand to suppress the map. Both Ev and Crub explain their stuff further in their own videos. You can place the schematic 1 block north of the top left corner of the map. Press F3G and make sure you are in the northern chunk. For a checker you can also limit the layer range. For the 2-layer method there are 4 spots you need to stand at to suppress a row. For the checker method you need to stand at 5 spots, since you're also rendering new pixels. Whilst suppressing a map, you want to stand on odd blocks. If you stand on an even block, you can ruin progress. The map updates every 16 ticks, so stand at each spot for a short while. To be sure you are aligned with the block, you can look straight down. The block that is outlined is the block that the game updates the map from. Make sure to never hold the map closer than 126 blocks from the last built row, otherwise you can ruin the progress. Once you've built the map, you can lock it with a glass pane. The easiest way to suppress a map is with the built-in suppression spots enabled, and do so west to east. Alternatively, you can build a roller coaster to suppress at every location. Another way is to use a gradient of blocks and have an identical offset 126 blocks to the east. This could be helpful for two-layer or void shadowing. Void shadowing is an extension of transparent map arts, and it can shade pixels south of the void, and it inspired a majority of color suppression. Another map artist to also discover it was Klay. It is by default in suppressed map arts, but can easily be done for staircase map arts as well. It allows you to make map arts that are 1.2 blocks or 1.5 blocks in height. All in all, the question I want you to ask yourself is if you'd rather collect 16k resources or 6% of that and suppress your map art.